Silo, episode 3 of season 3 is here, and it was a banger. One of the best episodes of the. Well, there's only been 3 episodes, but probably the best episode of the season, and we'll get into it in just a second. If you don't want to be spoiled on episode 3, I don't know why you're on this video, but I'll give you a second to click off of it. Okay, we have episode 3. Lucas Kyle has been found after 2 short episodes of absences. He is back. Tons of stuff happening with him and Juliet in the silo. That storyline has really taken center stage, and the pace has picked up rapidly in terms of that. I had been complaining that it was going a little bit slow, and I was a little bit over the amnesia, but we are thrown right into it with this episode. So, lots to talk about here today. The biggest news at this hour, Lucas Kyle is back in the mix, and he is teaming up with some of our fellow friends as well. We also have the DC storyline, took some developments this episode as well. Helen and Daniel are really on their shit right now, dealing with the dark web. That place was thrown. We'll definitely talk about that as well. And you have the sort of side storyline of the season on what is happening with Orla Kent. Her body has been pulled from the mines, I believe declared dead on the scene, it looked like. But that is kind of the background storyline of what we got going on here. So, tons to talk about in today's episode. Let's get right into it. Starting from the beginning of the episode. So we start with really, there's a bunch of other stuff happening, but the most important thing to me that stuck out is there's potentially communications from the fighter jets before they went down. So Daniel is visiting the sort of, I don't know if it's a funeral, but kind of a service to Juan, I believe the character's name is, one of the pilots who was flying with Charlotte prior to the crash. And they mention that, or Juan's father mentions to Daniel that, yeah, there might be recordings out there since they were using this old analog system from the 80s that was prehistoric, basically. There might be people that have been able to record that and figure out what's been going on there. So there's sort of a development there. I guess we were led to believe that Juan's dad was like alluding to the dark web at this point. I didn't really catch that in that specific scene, but that is going to take place later on in the episode. So Daniel and Helen will be able to pursue that lead starting back in the silo. One character I have not been loving so far this season has been Shirley. I believe she's been acting very odd towards Juliet, and I feel like to this point it's really become irrational, especially in this episode where Juliet sends a specific note to her from a porter saying, meet me in here. I'm trying to figure out where's Lucas Kyle. Last season you brought him down somewhere. And remember, that was when Shirley brought him down all the way to the bottom. He found the AI through the water, blah, 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 blah. But Juliet's like, I remember you were in the bottom of the silo with him. What were you doing? What were you guys up to? I'm really looking for Lucas Kyle. Could you let me know what's going on? And, Shirley and Knox are together, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But she gets up to leave, and I was like, oh shit, she's gonna go help Juliet because she's like, I gotta go now. After she makes a fake excuse to Knox, like, oh, there's like a delay in how they're building whatever they're building. But no, she just blew her off. That was actually one of the more surprising moments of the episode. I was like, oh, finally Shirley's got her shit together. She's gonna go meet Juliet and not really tell Knox about this. I don't know why you would tell Knox about this, but yeah, she does hide the message from Knox, and I've always, I don't want to. Knox has been cool. I haven't been a huge Knox supporter. I think he's kind of there to just move the plot along. But I've liked Knox in this season, and I feel like holding this from him, you know, Shirley's acting odd. Let's just call it like it is. I don't know what's going on with her. I feel like she's taking this too far. Like it's literally out of Juliet's hands to physically speak to you. She can't remember anything. She's trying to remember and get on. I remember there was a scene last episode of her trying to talk to her, and now there's a scene this episode of her being like, "Hey, let's hang out. I gotta learn shit from you," and Shirley's not really having it. So, Shirley, what's good, homie? Can we figure this out, please? But yeah, moving on. We have back in DC. Helen. It had been made a big kind of part of the storyline that for at least Helen's arc that she was working for this kind of TMZ-esque lower level TMZ even of this clickbait headline grabbing news organization. I believe she was fired from her other positions, and she's actually fired from this job. Now, usually, this would raise some red flags because she's kind of like a fish out of water here of her being an actual reporter, kind of latched onto this job because they were the only ones who would take her after her kind of controversial history. But she is talented, as you can see throughout these episodes. And yeah, I feel like they are justified in firing her. kind of a weird way of her being fired, where they're like, just don't go and like don't argue with security. Like I feel like that's not how it actually happens, and like I don't know why she had to like fight back with security. She clearly doesn't care about the job. So that was a little weird, but I do understand where they're like, you haven't been here. Like she's been side questing for at least what we've seen in the first two, maybe 2.5 episodes, counting like the end of the 10 minutes at the end of episode two, or at the end of season two. I feel like this is a justifiable firing. The only suspect part of it is when they're being let out, or when she's being let out of the door. There's that old man who Charlotte was running from on the subway, talking to the boss. So clearly there was an upper hand out here at play. They don't like what she's been saying about or they don't like what she's been digging into with this Iran missions and talking to the people in the military. It's getting suspect here, where what's this? I'm actually the most scary person. I'm not scared of that fucking AI that Camille talks to. That guy's a dumbass. I'm scared of this guy, this old man. And luckily for us, the viewer, we have relief in the fact that we know that they're going to make it to the silo because that Pez dispenser is there. They're going to figure it out. At least that's what I assume. I don't know if Helen makes it actually, but it seems like Daniel will make it. We don't know anything at this hour, but so I don't know what I'm saying. But I feel like there is a sense of relief of like, we know their storyline will progress at least a little bit further. So I don't know, but I'm sussed out about this old guy, and he was also at the Juan thing, where he's talking to Juan's father. Juan's father's like, I gotta talk to him, or else I'll get my head cut off, or something like that. Like, who is this guy? He's the El Matador. I don't know who it is. They said some sort of name with an M. I forget what it was, but like, I'm scared of this motherfucker, man. Get him out of there. So, continuing on with this storyline, they do follow through with the dark web. So I mentioned I had missed that connection earlier, but Daniel's like, let's go to this dark web guy. Obviously it's his sister. He's going to care a lot about what's going on here. And the dark web man believes that Daniel agreed to trade his badge, or trade a scan of his congressional badge for the recording. Daniel's like, I don't want to do that. Let's get out of here. And the guy's like, all right, get the fuck out. And Daniel's like, all right, you got it, bro. Daniel, man, I hope you get some tougher skin as we move along in this storyline, because you're gonna need it when the world goes to shit. And he kind of just hands it over easily here. Congressional badge, like, let's think, is just access? I don't know what a congressional badge is. Is it access to files or just access to the building? It seemed like my work badge, where I just scan into work and scan out. So it seemed like that kind of thing. But if it's like you can probably get into different rooms and stuff with that. So unspecified what the actual congressional badge means, at least in my end, but who knows. Daniel's giving it up pretty easily, so maybe it's not that bad. So like I mentioned in my short review, they both get to listen to this. Helen listens for I believe there's 20 seconds of audio. Helen's like, you're not going to want to listen to this. And Daniel's like, all right, I have to. It's my sister. And then he's like, oh, fuck. And he's getting really sad. I wonder what the actual audio is, and if we'll ever actually hear what the audio was. I feel like that would be an easy moment to just let us hear it, at least when Daniel was hearing it. And maybe it's just we already saw it in the first episode, but it would be nice to like hear that back on like specifically what they're hearing. Or is that like meant to be like a mystery for down the road? I don't know. I was kind of hoping that we would at least hear it when Daniel was hearing it, but I digress. We don't really know specifically what they were listening to. So Robert is a big part of this episode as well, back in the silo. Robert Sims, Camille Sims, and the son. I kind of forget that, Juliet took their family hostage and, just hanging out there. Camille let them go, but Juliet tries to meet Robert at the school, and the son could see them. And, this is a big part of Robert's arc this season so far, is how he doesn't want Juliet anywhere near his son because he has PTSD and he wakes up in the middle of the night and gets scared, which is rational from the kid. Like, if you were held hostage for a couple hours and everything like that. The kid's probably like 8 or 9 years old. Fair enough. Robert's being a good father. But now he's like, we're taking him out of school just because Juliet was like in the area. He didn't even see Juliet. I was actually on Camille's side with this, where he's like, you're never home anymore. It's like, bro, you're running around trying to, glaze Bernard and do whatever Bernard was doing. You're freaking watching the cameras 24/7, bro. You're a big brother. So where were you when Camille was raising this fucking family? And I've been shitting all over Camille this whole entire season. But I was actually like, for a moment there, I was on Team Camille. And then she fucks up later on the episode, and we'll get to that. But I thought Robert was acting rationally with the kid. And it's nice to get family time or whatever, but in the middle of the day, like, don't y'all get like lunch breaks, weekends? I guess maybe not in their positions at this point, but I don't know. That family feels like it's headed for a disaster, especially between Robert and Camille. And, I think they have a strong relationship, but Camille's too fucking obsessed with this robot to get back into the real world. So who knows? Knox is actually helping Juliet. So Juliet's trying to get down to the mines because she figures, I don't know if she made the true connection that Lucas Kyle would be down there, but she makes the connection that since he was down there and was pulled out to be Bernard's shadow, he must have found something down there, which is like half the truth because it's kind of like a mixed bag where I think he was the one to like help Bernard crack Salvador Quinn's like poem. So it was kind of like a mix of that. It wasn't just like, oh, he found something in the mines. I think he just worked in the mines and then he got pulled up. I could be misremembering that, but let me know down below in the comments if I am. They talked to Chambers, who is a man in a wheelchair. He's the head of the mines, and he was actually able to get out of the mines. This guy, this guy was cool as fuck. He gave them nothing and was like shitting all over them. But I respect his aura. Like he was just like, you're an idiot. Like no, don't ever make it out of the mines. Which kind of adds onto the situation for Juliet, who's kind of trying to recover all of her memory, figure out what's going on. But I like that guy. I like Chambers. Hopefully he continues on. He's like, good to see you, Knox, and then just like goes back to doing his work. So that guy was pretty cool. So once they make the connection, obviously Camille has cameras all over the world. Like Camille's straight just Bernard this like she's literally just villain this season. But she's got cameras everywhere. They realized they were talking to Chambers, who's in the mines. So this means that Camille now has to be bloodthirsty as fuck and smoke the people out of the mines. And even her assistant is like growing weary. Where I thought maybe there was a moment later on in the episode when the assistant's talking to the nurse, I was like, maybe the assistant's going to turn on her because Camille's acting fucking irrationally. But these judicial like bodyguards just do whatever they're told. Like they're literally just sheep. I'm sorry, not sorry, Camille. I know you're a former one, but like, come on, y'all. So she's going bloodthirsty. She believes in what this AI has to say, and the AI is telling her. I don't know if this was like a combined idea from both of them of like smoking out the mines, but they smoke out the mines with this gas that could literally kill people. And we see this is one of the fucked up parts of the episode. It's like, oh, like this is when truly Silo's coming back. Like the rebellion, people are fucking dying because they gassed out the mines because of a rat leak, which I'm sure, when are the people, it's the Silo's in a very refractory period where like they just went through a big ass rebellion. They got their woman in charge, even though she doesn't remember shit, and she's trying to be attempted to be controlled by Camille. And now with that, I don't know where they're at, like politically. Like, there's still the people running around, like throwing up signs, the Juliet lovers, and there's like the Patrick Kennedy group. It's confusing on what the political standpoint of most of the people in the silo is. The small focus, I say, in House of the Dragon. Little pop culture reference there. Both of these shows happening at the same time right now, but yeah, I don't know what happens, but it feels like this is getting to be too much for the people now. It's like, okay, now we're bombing people in the mines. Like, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing, bro? Those people all die anyway. So I guess maybe that was part of Camille's rationale too. Is like, oh, they're gonna fucking die anyway. Who cares? Let me fucking smoke them out anyway, so we can try and find Lucas Kyle. Which is actually crazy that Juliet, through like her kind of sort of flawed logic, got to Lucas Kyle before the people have all been looking for her for months and months. That just shows the prowess of Juliet. And I believe who was the one who said, even though I think it was was it who was it? Someone was like, "Oh, she's still very sharp." I think that was Knox that might have said that. But he's right because she fucking through her like memory loss, through all the bullshit, she figured this out before anybody else where Lucas Kyle is. So yeah, the smoke bombs are going into the mines to try and smoke Lucas Kyle out. Crazy stuff by Camille, by the way, but it's been an all season shit parade on her for me, and I'm gonna keep going as long as she's listening to this fucking AI. Anyways, Juliet, the mayor of the fucking was it the mayor? I think it's the mayor. The mayor of the silo is down there in the mines herself, helping people out. She grabs a gas mask for herself, finds a man, gives it to him. We'll switch off. I can't blame this guy completely because his life has been fucking sentenced to shit. And now he's gonna die because Camille decided to bomb the place. But like he shoves her against a rock. I thought her skull might have cracked there. He's on the ground lying down. In a show like Silo, where obviously Juliet isn't gonna die here. I'm like, who's gonna come save her? Who's it gonna be? And I could tell instantly when she was picked up. Lucas Kyle is back, man. I love Lucas Kyle. He just adds another dimension to the show on like what he's trying to do. So awesome to see him back in the fold. He's back. He helps nurses her to help. Instantly is recognized by the judicial branch. So I get Lucas Kyle first, and then we can get a medic for Juliet. So he's chased through the bottom of the silo. He goes into a closet. And it's a very intense scene. There's people walking under the door. Are they going to get Lucas Kyle? He grabs a mallet. Like, is he going to have to smash people's head in, or is he just cooked? Could this be the end of Lucas Kyle? And like, he's got way too much interesting stuff going on right now to die, in my opinion, from a writer's standpoint. But who is it at the door? My man Danny and homegirl. I need to learn this girl's name because she's gonna become an important part of the story. I'm sorry for not knowing her name in the last two episodes, but it's him and the person who was helping out Juliet as the sheriff, who's now turned to like the Patrick Kennedy side of things. So now let's imagine this link up between Patrick Kennedy, Lucas Kyle, Danny, and that whole crew. We might have a Rebellion 2.0 coming down the pipeline with all the knowledge between all those people. Super excited to see where that goes. Meanwhile, back to DC. They go back. Daniel decides like halfway through the drive, he's like, "We need that fucking recording, no matter what that guy says. Like, I need this to show people that I work for, and not just the. Well, I don't know if he was talking, because he says I need to show the people I work for, but he's not. He's like not the people who fund the campaigns. So I don't know if he's talking about like the common man or like the Senate or like people above him and like the Senate or the Well, I guess the Senate is the same thing as the House. They have the same level of representation. I don't know how it works like that. Fuck. I need a DC representative to break this all down for me, but I feel like it might have been a double entendre, like the people he works for, because theoretically, in theory, as many of us know through the political system, the people we vote for work for us, technically. So I don't know if he was talking about that or if he was talking about the president of the United States is technically the boss of the House of Representatives. I'm a little lost on that, on who he was. I mean, he might have been talking about the common people, which is probably fair. And we'll have to see if that goes anywhere because they go into the place and it's been tossed. Everything is gone. So there's definitely people at play here. I think something that's just kind of popped into me to this episode, and this might be like a crackpot theory. I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure on it yet, but I think there might be something to like trailing because this guy, the old guy's always trailing people, and Julia had her person trailing her this episode when it was like a scene of her and Knox. She realizes someone's trailing her. So maybe that's like a concept that's brought over into the silos. Just a crackpot theory. I don't really know what's going on with that, but yeah, the hacker dude's place is tossed. Who knows what's happened to I think his name was Steve. His like fake name was Steve. So who the fuck knows what his real name was? I don't know. But his place has been tossed. Daniel and Helen in some super trouble now because they don't have the recording. They're back to square one. And well, they have heard it, so I don't know if they're gonna have to go in like a court of law and trying to say that shit out loud, keep it under wraps. The DC storyline honestly has been like I mentioned, I think I mentioned last week, it was kind of carrying. Like I actually cared more about what's going on in DC in the silo like last week, but now the silo stuff is picked back up. But the DC, for a show to take a shot this deep of like two different storylines running at the same time, prehistoric and current day, they're doing a pretty good job at this. And like the first two episodes or the first last week was a little slow of an episode. Week one was good, and this week was the best episode yet. So I'm excited. Like Silo's doing a great job right now, and I'm excited about this DC storyline of characters we just met literally like this season. So awesome stuff there. In passing, I mentioned the Orla Kent stuff. So the sheriff, I believe his name is, it starts with an H. He's been looking on this Orla Kent case. He kind of left the house. His wife had turned rogue into like one of the Juliet Patrick Kennedy supporter groups. But anyways, he's been looking for Orla Kent, and she turns up dead. We learn this episode she has a new boyfriend, so that may be part of the problem, but she's the shadow to supply. Now she's, I think, dead in the mines. She could be revived, I guess, but maybe she was smoked out. It feels like she was just dead, and then they found her there because they said a body. I think she's dead. And Orla Kent, I don't, bless her, I don't know what happened to her. I'm just not really concerned. Like I feel like maybe it's like that all connects it all in the end, but I feel like that's kind of like the third. That's like the third place storyline right now of what's going on. I'm watching Orla Kent. What happened to her episode? I'm obviously gonna watch that, but I don't know. It was kind of a passing thought for me this episode, but she's gone, so we have to figure out what happened to her throughout the rest of the season. Wrapping it up, we have another conversation between Camille and this fucking lovely AI. The AI is like, now's your time to kill Juliet because she was in the mines. It would make sense, like theoretically. And actually, I don't like it because I love Juliet and Juliet makes this show great, and I don't think she'll die, just from like a bird's eye view. But it does actually make sense to kill her now. Like, oh, she succumbed to her injuries, and then you can kind of reset everything. I don't know who you put in as mayor, but like she's already, she's taken way too many chances. We didn't even talk about Juliet grabbing the freaking gloves and going down on the rope, asking her police officer to leave her alone, or her officer, her guard to leave her alone. She's taking chances already, and this is not gonna, like, just like her as sheriff, it's gonna go fucking crazy. So it makes sense in theory, but I'm not happy about it, and I don't think it's gonna happen. But it's Camille, and it's the AI, so she's gonna try and listen to that shit. And Camille, I feel like Camille has been slowly losing power. It feels like, and I hope her assistant. I feel like something's leading. Her assistant was kind of giving her that look, like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" The head of the judicial police. So I think maybe something happens there where that lady's like, you know what, you're being an idiot right now, and like stop being so fucking irrational. Um, Maybe something happens there. But Camille admits that she did admire Juliet. That's why she let her go when she was holding her hostage, even though Camille had the gun and could have shot her. But she's going to do it now because she realizes it's what's best for the silo, and there's about 10,000 people in the silo, including her son and husband. Um, Also, we had a weird moment of, I forget what the AI was saying about her husband. Oh, she lied to her husband. Yeah, it's been rough for Camille stands out there. Luckily, I'm not one of them, and I've been crapping all over this whole season, and I doubt that'll stop as long as she's listening to this AI. But I guess if the AI has all power to like safeguard and shit, you kind of have to. So it's kind of just like, we're stuck, Camille. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hate you because you just have to follow what the AI does, and it makes sense why you're doing it, but I have to hate it. All right, well, that wraps up episode 3. What were your guys' thoughts? My favorite episode of the season so far. Probably by far. Like, this was great. Lucas Kyle stuff. Love seeing him back. His return was great. And I like that we're getting him back in episode 3. Like, we didn't have to wait to find out where Patrick Kennedy was. We found out where he was in episode 2, and we don't have to wait and find out where Lucas Kyle was. We found him in episode 3. So many fun possibilities on what's going to happen between Lucas, Patrick Kennedy, Danny, and that other woman. What are they going to get up to? What kind of tricks are they going to get up to? And then, we have Juliet. Is she going to be attempted to be murdered? Who's going to come and save her? If anybody, is she going to be taken? What's going to happen with Juliet? And then, of course, we have the DC storyline. Where do we go from here? They've now heard the recording, but what do they do about that? So, super interesting stuff. And, of course, what happened to Orla Kent? Who knows? All right, well, I'll give my favorite character this episode. It's going to Juliet. She makes this show great, and she's been a shell of herself, but she was back this episode, just taking so many chances. She's got the freaking burn marks. She's freaking mayor. She don't give a fuck, and she can't remember half of her fucking life. More, she can't remember like 80% of her life. Don't care, don't matter. She's still taking chances, trying to find out Lucas Kyle and trying to figure out what was going on. So, love Juliet in this episode. She was awesome. Least favorite, it's been the same as the first 2 episodes. Camille, especially at the end of the episode, trying to kill my girl Juliet. Don't fucking do that. As well as just blindly following the AI with no matter what it's saying. So there you go on that. That'll wrap up episode 3 of Silo. What did you guys think? Are you excited for episode 4? And we still have 7 episodes left of Silo, which is so exciting. So I'm excited to get into that. House of the Dragon, we're halfway through that as well. And then we also have movie reviews coming up. I'm seeing Odyssey tomorrow, so maybe expect a review, or tonight actually when this video comes out. So expect a review on that, hopefully, if I get my shit together on that. And then House of the Dragon. What else? More movie reviews. Spider-Man, I'll review that at the end of the month. Just more random movie reviews. Next, like old movie reviews. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Then Drive. Then Usual Suspects. They'll keep coming. This has been a busy summer, so I've been kind of holding back on those. In terms of sports, we have UFC 330 in August, and then late August we'll get back into the NFL weekly streams. So that'll be super exciting to do that. Tons of stuff happening on the Dubcast. Hopefully you subscribe, like, comment, dislike. Follow on Spotify, follow on Instagram, TikTok. I'm posting short recaps of the episodes as well, under 3 minutes on both YouTube Shorts and TikTok. So if that's more your speed, I know kids these days can't pay attention for more than 5 seconds, right? So I'll see you when I see you next, and I appreciate you staying all the way to the end of the video. As always, be easy.